What a show. What a night. We had not one, not two, but 3 5-round fights. UFC 263, 2 titles on the line. One of them changed hands. A lot of news coming out of UFC 263. Adesanya versus Vettori 2. What's up? Fred Richani, TSC News, your home for MMA news updates, interviews, and everything in between. If you're new here, please consider subscribing and sharing this recap. We're here to recap UFC 263 from top to bottom. I got a chance to catch the main card, not so much the prelims, but we'll go over those as well. Plus all the news coming out of UFC 263. It just ended, so why not go with the recap of the main event, which thankfully I would say was not a lame event, unless you're a Marvin Vettori fan, because while the dude is tough as hell, while the dude can absolutely take a shot, this guy got battered. This guy got bruised. This guy got leg kicked straight to hell, and he got 50-45 3 straight times and lost handily via unanimous decision to Israel Adesanya in the rematch, which means that, well, Marvin Vettori now, not exactly the most exciting fighter, not the sexiest name around, and now he is 0-2 versus Israel Adesanya, who doesn't look to be relinquishing that middleweight title anytime soon. Now, a lot of people tried to write off Izzy, say, oh, you know, overrated, this, that, and the other thing. The guy went up to light heavyweight to fight Jan Blachowicz, who I believe at one point fought a heavyweight. And he did all right. He got taken down, but he did all right. And he lost, but he did all right. And in this fight, he did get taken down, but he got up. He showed good submission defense. He showed great takedown defense. He put on an absolute striking clinic. I mean, it was awesome. Although, few complaints about this main event. First of all, I don't think Izzy did this intentionally whatsoever, but there was one round where there was an eye poke. I believe it was round 3. There's an eye poke and a straight kick to the groin. Again, accidental. I don't think they were, intentional. You probably could have taken a point there. I'm just saying. 2 fouls, even if they're accidental. I mean, there's a lot of accidental fouls in the NBA. People still get teed up, right? They get still penalized. So, I mean, that's not a huge deal. But, well, maybe for Marvin Vettori it was. But, man, I like Joe Rogan, and, well, sometimes I like Joe Rogan, but they're talking about how Vettori's not checking these kicks, and he's checking some of the kicks. He's just getting his ass kicked. He gets poked in the eye, and they're saying, oh, maybe he's going for a breather. Has there been any point in Vettori's UFC career, MMA career up to this point, that says this guy's a quitter? Or looking for a way out? Like, that was just, like, I get it. Adesanya's a star. I love watching him. He's great. He's charismatic. He called out Robert Whittaker afterwards, said he's the champ bitch, and he sets the terms, and they should fight in Auckland, New Zealand, which would be amazing. But, like, come on, man. Like, try to be a little less biased. That's all I got to say. But dominant win for Adesanya. If you missed this fight, I'd say it was pretty entertaining. I mean, not the greatest fight of all time or anything, but pretty entertaining. But for me, the real highlight of the night was Brandon Moreno versus Deiveson Figueiredo 2 in our co-main event for the flyweight title. You may recall, I believe back in December, these guys had an incredible fight that went to a draw, one of the great fights in UFC history. Also, probably the fight of the year in 2020. And Brandon Moreno, man, this dude, the fans love this guy. They just love this guy. And it's great in combat sports when you have great fighters from all over the world, especially Mexican fighters. And this guy, man, he won 3 rounds handily before, well, 2.5 rounds handily before submitting Deiveson Figueiredo via rear naked choke, 2:26 of round number 3. Just pretty much complete domination. Knocked Figueiredo down, had him spinning at one point. Was, in a little bit of a scare with the guillotine attempt, but he escaped that. I mean, he looked tremendous, showed tremendous improvement. This guy was such an underdog dating back to his days in Tough, where he was completely overlooked, and he did a great job here. After the fight, overcame with emotion, crowd going crazy. Obviously, a huge Hispanic population where this UFC took place, which is Arizona, Glendale, Arizona. And he embraced his beautiful wife and family and cut this amazing babyface promo talking about how he's so happy and how hard he worked. It was just super inspiring, super emotional. It was genuine. It was real. He came off as the most likable guy on planet Earth. He came off as the top babyface in the territory. Man, if I was booking a wrestling territory back in the day, he'd be my top babyface. This guy came off super marketable, fun fighter to watch. I would say the UFC has a Mexican crossover star on their hands, but at the same time, you look at the flyweight division, not a lot of hot prospects, not a lot of hot challengers. I guess you could run it back if you want a trilogy. I wouldn't do that because I think he won pretty handily here. But you know what? The guy's got enough charisma, enough likability, and he's an awesome enough fighter that, you know what? Who cares who you put him up against? If he has good performances and cuts great promos like that and gets crowd reactions like that, I mean, damn, man, just run with him until the wheels fall off. Leon Edwards, he got the unanimous decision win, 49-46 against Nate Diaz, but the wheels almost fell off for this guy. Now, this was the first 5-round fight in UFC history that was not a main event or a title fight. This was just a 5-round fight to really give fans a showcase of Nate Diaz, who they absolutely love, win, lose, or draw, and to give a showcase to Leon Edwards, who's been criminally underrated for the last few years and is just, one, not a big name, and two, had the absolute worst luck in the world between the eye poke in the fight with Bilal Muhammad. He had a chance to get a title shot against Usman, but due to COVID restrictions, he didn't take the fight. He got ostracized in the media. Oh, he's scared to fight. He's not scared to fight. I mean, the dude, when he was offered a fight last year, if I recall correctly, he had no way of getting back to his home in the UK. And this was at the height, well, not the height, but like at the height of like the hysteria and before we knew everything about COVID. And yeah, man, I don't know. I just think this guy gets a bad rap. I mean, he's ranked number 3 for a reason. But Nate Diaz is Nate Diaz for a reason. And even though Nate Diaz got his ass kicked for about 4 rounds and was pretty well dominated, outstruck on the feet, taken down, bloodied up, I mean, looking like a mess, looking like a freaking, like he just had a match with New Jack or something. R.I.P. New Jack. And in round number 5, I mean, Diaz just turns it on, tags him, straight up stalked and slapped him. And all of a sudden, there's like a minute left in this fight, and Edwards just wobbled. And there was a brief period, and maybe I'm exaggerating here, but it felt like when I was watching this in real time, kind of like almost like an eternity, like Diaz is taunting him, which is great, except there's 1 minute left in the fight. And he's just he's begging Edwards to come at him. But Edwards backs off because he's stunned. And Diaz just pours it on. Somehow, some way, Edwards survives, got the unanimous decision win. There is a part of me, as somebody who's grown up watching Nate Diaz, that thought, damn it, man, like, if you didn't stall, lack of a better term, stall for those few seconds, you could have finished him and gotten the win. There's also the promoter pro wrestling guy in me that's like, this was the greatest finish to ever happen for Nate Diaz. This was the most Nate Diaz fight ever. He gets dominated for 4 rounds. Over 4 rounds. 4 freaking rounds. And the only thing every single fan watching that fight will remember is that Nate Diaz kicked Leon Edwards' ass in round number 5, would have won with pride rules, and celebrated with his head held high, taunting him, flexing, keeping it 100, keeping it gangster. I mean, Leon Edwards got the win, but somehow, someway, Nate Diaz won the real fight because he stays a star. I think that fight even made him a bigger star somehow, if that's even possible. And so, Nate Diaz lives to get paid another day. And I guess Leon Edwards could challenge Kamaru Usman, but I don't know. That might be a bit of a tough sell. I think he's the rightful number 1 contender. But you know what? I could see Dana White being like, you know what? Maybe we'll do Wonder Boy next because, I mean, the last image is him almost getting knocked out. So there you go. Hell of a fight though. First 4 rounds, all right, but 5th round incredible. Bilal Muhammad beat Damian Maia via unanimous decision. A good win for Bilal. We had, in the light heavyweight division, a weird opening matchup on the pay-per-view. Paul Craig defeated Jamahal Hill via technical submission, the armbar. Looked like the dude's arm was broken. Referee had a super delayed reaction. Very poor reffing. And later in the show, they said that the arm was dislocated, not broken, and that they popped it back in place. Sounds painful, but hey, good for him. There you go. Okay, cool. So there's that. On the prelims, we had, a lot of decisions. In the lightweight division, Brad Riddell defeated Drew Dober via unanimous decision, 29-28 across the board. In the light heavyweight division, we had Eric Anders defeat Darren Stewart via unanimous decision. Lauren Murphy, in a potential title eliminator, defeated Joanne Calderwood via split decision. I guess she'll get the next shot, but, I don't know, man. It's tough to keep interest in any of Valentina's opponents because she's so dominant. Mavsar Ivilov defeated Hakeem Dawodu via unanimous decision. See a theme. In the women's bantamweight division, Pani Kianzad defeated Alexis Davis via unanimous decision. In the lightweight division, Terrence McKinney defeated Matt Frivola via knockout, 7-second knockout. This one you could probably find on Twitter or Instagram. It's all over the place. Highlight reel finish for the debuting McKinney, but the only finish on the prelims. So, yeah, it was a long preliminary card. Steven Peterson beat Chase Hooper in a catchweight bout at 148.5 pounds via unanimous decision. In a lightweight bout, Faraz Ziam defeated Luigi Vendramini via majority decision, And in the heavyweight division, we had Carlos Felipe defeat Jake Collier via split decision in the opener. So overall, I got to say, thumbs up. I mean, prelims were a bit of a decision fest, but I was entertained by some of the fights and some of the highlights I saw. I didn't get a chance to catch all the prelims, caught some of the early ones, but I'll probably go back and watch it. And as far as what's next on the docket for UFC, well, the following weekend, we got the Korean Zombie versus Dan Ige, which should be freaking awesome. Alexei Oleinik versus Sergey Spivak. And Oleinik, I always get a kick out of Oleinik. He's got that old dad strength, so that'll be interesting. Plus, it could be a sleeper fight, Diego Lima versus Matt Brown. The following weekend after that, we have Cyril Gane against Alexander Volkov. That could be an interesting fight right there. And then about a month or so, a little less than a month, July 10th, we have UFC 264, Poirier versus McGregor. Holloway's the following weekend. Poirier versus McGregor 3. Tai Tuivasa versus Greg Hardy. I don't care for Greg Hardy at all. Gilbert Burns versus Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. If Thompson wins, I think he should get the next shot. If Burns wins, I think it's going to take him a couple more wins. But yeah, should be interesting there. Kevin Lee, Sean Brady should be interesting. And then the following weekend after that will be Max Holloway versus Yair Rodriguez, which sounds like an absolute barn burner. And Marion Renault versus Miesha Tate, which should be interesting because Miesha Tate hasn't fought in several years, ironically enough, since she lost, I believe, to Amanda Nunes. And Amanda Nunes is still champ. And then after that, we got Corey Sandhagen versus TJ Dillashaw, who's making his big return since that major USADA failure. It's been a long time. We'll see if he's still got it. And then after that, we got Sean Strickland versus Uriah Hall on a fight night. So yeah, a lot going on. And then in August, UFC 265, Amanda Nunes versus Juliana Pena. But let's keep it real here, folks. COVID's still out there. Injuries can still happen. I don't think it's been as prevalent lately, but poor Angela Hill's got the worst luck in the world. A lot of these other fighters have some of the worst luck in the world. So a lot can happen between now and then, but some interesting fights coming up for the summer for UFC, of course, none bigger than Poirier versus McGregor. Let's go to some of the comments here. Who do you see is next for Israel Adesanya? In my opinion, I think it should be Robert Whittaker. And I think Robert Whittaker should have gotten this shot over Vettori, because Vettori's been not exactly the most entertaining fighter, although I think he showed a lot of heart in this fight. But he just wasn't available. And, at the end of the day, UFC's going to book who's available. They don't really care. Where do you see Marvin Vettori going from here? It's going to be a while. I can't see this guy getting another title shot for a long, long time, if ever. I think he's got to put it together a really, not only impressive that was weird. A really impressive streak of wins. I think he's got to get some finishes. And I think he's got to pray to God that Robert Whittaker beats Israel Adesanya, and then maybe, just maybe, he can get the next shot. I know Volkanovski and Brian Ortega's coming up after Tough as well. No, I have not been watching Tough. I heard it's been relatively entertaining for Tough, but I haven't watched Tough in years. I am looking forward to that fight, though. And if you're Max Holloway, if you can get the job done against Yair Rodriguez, and I don't see why he can't, you're praying that Ortega wins that title, because last time Holloway beat Ortega, man, he just absolutely destroyed him. But hey, they're both different fighters. They're both better fighters, so it'll be interesting to see a rematch. Shout out to all the people watching the live stream, including Steven the Dude. The first time I've watched the UFC pay-per-view, I went to Buffalo Wild Wings, had a great time. Awesome, man. You picked a pretty good show to watch. And hey, I'll say this. COVID scares aside, and however you feel about it and everything else, it is awesome to hear the crowds back at live fights. By the way, shout out to Jenny Harb. She's wonderful, and I heard a great fiance too, but that's another story for another day. But yeah, the UFC crowds, man, they're lively. They're awesome. And yeah, they're great. Also, props to the Houston crowd, props to the Arizona crowd. They definitely are bringing the energy. Jacksonville brought the energy too. Yeah, all these UFC crowds. It's gonna be awesome when we can safely run fights at full capacity on a regular basis all throughout the world, all throughout the country. Bellator just had fans back for Bellator 260 as well. So yeah, man, a lot going on. If you enjoyed this recap, please like, share. Don't forget to subscribe. Quick programming notes. We did do live coverage of Bellator 260. We have post-fight interviews with pretty much all the winners of Bellator 260, including the new champion, Yaroslav Amosov, who dominated Douglas Lima in an upset. You can check that out. We also have a post-fight interview with Claressa Shields, the legendary boxer, now MMA fighter, who won her MMA debut on PFL 4 on ESPN2. So please check that out. For all the people who have already bought TSC t-shirts like the one I'm wearing right now, if you're watching the live stream, or maybe you're listening online, you can go to prowrestlingtees.com/TSC News. That's prowrestlingtees.com/TSC News and pick up the latest TSC shirts. We also have links on our YouTube channel as well. Until then, everybody, thank you so much for watching. I love y'all. Have a great rest of the weekend. And until next time, as always, enjoy the fights.